52-year-old Jonathan Crawford, the CEO of a $500 million company, walks into the courtroom as if he's walking into his own corporate office. He's wearing an expensive suit, a brand-name Rolex watch on his wrist, and enters the room while still talking on his phone. It was as if he wasn't entering a courtroom, but a space he owned. When Judge Caprio asks him to hang up his phone, put it on silent, and explain why he failed to appear at his previous hearing, the arrogant man smirks. He really is laughing. And then he says that 5-word sentence that shocks everyone. "You can't judge me." Judge Caprio's pen stops. The CEO arrogantly leans forward. "Excuse me, do you know who I am? I am a god. I am the god of my own industry." These words send a chill through the room. The judge is stunned by what he's just heard. What Judge Caprio was about to do next, however, would become one of the most brutal downfalls in court history. To claim to be a god, to say those words to a judge's face, especially a judge like Caprio, was undoubtedly the fastest way to meet real justice. You know the saying, the higher they climb, the harder they fall. And that is exactly what you are about to witness. This destruction was biblical. If you've watched the story up to this point, I urge you not to miss this CEO's great downfall. Like the video and write in the comments where you're watching from. Now sit back and let's dive into the story that tells the end of this arrogant CEO. Thursday morning, 10:00 a.m. sharp. The Providence Municipal Court operates on schedule, regardless of who thinks their time is more important than anyone else's. The bailiff's voice echoes through the room, which is filled with citizens handling their civic duties. Like adults. 10:32 a.m. Mahogany courtroom doors burst open like someone's making a grand entrance at a shareholders meeting. Jonathan Crawford strides in, confident, entitled, unaccustomed to hearing no. Jonathan Crawford doesn't walk. He commands space. His charcoal Tom Ford suit probably costs more than most people's monthly mortgage payments. A Rolex Submariner catches overhead lights like a beacon of success. AirPods Pro rest around his neck like technological jewelry. But here's what makes this entrance legendary. He's conducting a phone call, loudly, in a courtroom, while 32 minutes late for criminal proceedings. "I don't care what the board thinks. Execute the acquisition, that's why I pay you." His voice carries across the chamber with absolute authority, treating Judge Caprio's courtroom like his personal conference room. He approaches the defendant's table while maintaining eye contact with Judge Caprio, raises one finger in the universal "give me a minute" gesture, and continues his conversation. Judge Caprio's voice cuts through the performance with quiet authority. "Sir, end that call immediately." Crawford glances up with the mild irritation of someone interrupted during important business. He doesn't end the call. Instead, he speaks into the phone. "Yeah, I have to deal with some court thing. Handle it." Finally, he disconnects. No apology, no acknowledgement of disrespect, just the expectation that everyone waited appropriately for his convenience. Judge Caprio's voice carries ice-cold professionalism. "State your name for the record." "Jonathan Crawford." He delivers it like announcing the guest of honor at an awards banquet. "Mr. Crawford, you were ordered to appear at 10:00 a.m. for contempt of court proceedings. It's now 10:32. Can you explain your 32-minute delay?" Crawford shrugs with the casual dismissiveness of someone explaining why he's late for lunch. "Traffic. You know how it is downtown." "I'm here now, aren't I?" "Let's just handle this quickly. I have a meeting at 11:30. The courtroom achieves that special kind of silence, reserved for moments when someone crosses lines they don't even realize exist. Spectators exchange glances of disbelief. Court staff pause their routine tasks. Judge Caprio reviews the file with deliberate calm. "Mr. Crawford, you're the CEO of Crawford Dynamics. Is that correct?" "That's correct." Pride radiates from every syllable, like he's announcing his divine appointment. "And 3 weeks ago, you failed to appear for a routine traffic citation hearing. No call, no explanation, no appearance. That resulted in today's contempt charge. Do you understand why that creates problems?" Crawford's patience, never substantial to begin with, evaporates entirely. "Look, Your Honor," he says Your Honor like it's a formality he's forced to observe for lesser mortals. "I run a company worth $500 million. I employ over 800 people. I have responsibilities that frankly take priority over parking tickets." Judge Caprio's eyebrows rise slowly. "Take priority over court orders?" I didn't mean it exactly like that. How did you mean it, Mr. Crawford? What I mean is, I'm an extremely busy person. Things slip through the cracks sometimes. Can't we just resolve this with a fine? I'll write a check right now. He actually produces a leather checkbook in open court, like he's settling a restaurant bill instead of facing criminal charges. Judge Caprio's expression hardens visibly. Mr. Crawford, put that checkbook away. This isn't about money. This is about respect for the legal process. Crawford's laugh contains zero humor and maximum condescension. Respect. Your Honor, I've built a company from nothing. I've created hundreds of jobs. I pay more in taxes annually than most people earn in a decade. I think I've earned some respect. Wealth doesn't put you above the law. Your Honor, with all due respect, you don't understand the environment I operate in. Split-second decisions affecting millions of dollars. I can't be concerned with parking violations. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly. This isn't about parking violations anymore, Mr. Crawford. This is about contempt. You ignored a court order. That's a crime. Crawford's face flushes with genuine indignation. A crime? That's ridiculous. I'm not a criminal. I'm a businessman, a successful one. Mr. Crawford, success doesn't place you above the law, regardless of your net worth. And that's when Jonathan Crawford makes the mistake that transforms him from a successful CEO to a viral cautionary tale. He leans against the podium, looks Judge Caprio directly in the eye, and delivers the words that will define him forever. Your Honor, you cannot judge me the same way you judge regular people. The courtroom dies. Complete silence. Even the court reporter stops typing. Judge Caprio's voice drops to barely above a whisper. Excuse me? Crawford doubles down with absolute certainty. I said you can't judge me like everyone else. I'm not everyone else. Then who are you, Mr. Crawford? Jonathan Crawford straightens to full height, chest out, chin raised, radiating pure arrogance from every pore. What comes next will be replayed millions of times across social media platforms. Do you know who I am? In my industry, in my company, among my peers, I am God. The words hang in the air like smoke after an explosion. He continues, apparently believing this is persuasive rather than damning. When I decide, hundreds depend on me. In my world, I'm God. He pauses dramatically, like delivering a keynote address to investors. So when I tell you that missing a court date isn't significant, when I explain that I have more critical responsibilities, you need to understand. I operate on a different level than the people who typically stand here. The courtroom remains frozen. Multiple spectators have their mouths open. This man just called himself God to a judge. In open court, Judge Caprio sits completely motionless for 5 eternal seconds. When he finally speaks, his voice could cut diamonds. Mr. Crawford, did you just refer to yourself as God? Crawford realizes too late that he's entered dangerous territory, but his ego won't permit retreat. It's a metaphor, Your Honor, for the level of authority and responsibility I carry in my industry. I see. And this God status, does it exempt you from Rhode Island law? What I'm saying is that my time is more valuable than... Judge Caprio's voice cracks like thunder. More valuable than what? Than court proceedings? Than the legal system? Than the rule of law that applies equally to every citizen? I didn't mean... You said you're God in your industry. Let me tell you what you are in my courtroom, Mr. Crawford. You're a man who broke the law, a man who ignored a court order, a man who arrived 32 minutes late without apology, a man who thinks his bank account purchases privilege. Subscribe to Judge Stories if you believe wealth doesn't buy immunity. Judge Caprio opens his statute book with deliberate precision. Crawford watches, his confidence finally beginning to crack like expensive veneer under pressure. Mr. Crawford, contempt of court in Rhode Island carries maximum penalties of 6 months imprisonment and $5,000 in fines. Do you understand that? Crawford's face loses color rapidly. 6 months? That's excessive for missing a court date. Is it? From where I sit, you didn't just miss a court date. You missed a court date. You ignored it completely. Then you arrived 32 minutes late to your contempt hearing. Then you disrespected this court repeatedly. And then, Judge Caprio's voice rises with controlled fury. You told me you're God. It was a metaphor. It was arrogance. Pure, unfiltered arrogance. And I'm going to teach you something your money apparently hasn't. Humility. Judge Caprio makes deliberate notes in the case file while Crawford watches his world shift beneath him. Crawford winces but doesn't argue. Your Honor. Crawford's jaw drops. $2,000 for being late. No, Mr. Crawford. $2,000 for showing contempt twice. But we're not done. What else could there possibly be? Judge Caprio's eyes become steel. Your behavior in this courtroom today, the phone call you refused to end immediately, the dismissive attitude, the checkbook performance, the I'm God declaration that demonstrates willful disrespect for judicial authority. He writes with methodical precision, aggravating circumstances. I'm adding $2,000 for obstruction and deliberate disrespect. Crawford's face turns crimson. $4,000 total? This is outrageous. Is it? You said you pay more in taxes annually than most people earn in a decade. You called yourself God. $4,000 should be pocket change for a deity. The gallery erupts in applause. Someone actually shouts, "Amen!" Crawford attempts one final gambit. Your Honor, I'm going to appeal this decision. My lawyers will. Your lawyers will review the courtroom video where you called yourself God and declared yourself above regular people. I'm confident that will impress the appellate court immensely. Judge Caprio delivers his final devastating blow. Mr. Crawford, you said you employ 800 people who depend on you for their livelihoods. Have you considered what kind of leader you're demonstrating when you believe laws don't apply to you? I never said. You said it with every action today. Arriving late, refusing to end your call. Producing a checkbook is like purchasing justice. Calling yourself God. What does that teach your employees? That success means you're above consequences? Crawford has no response. Let me tell you what I see, Mr. Crawford. I see a man who has achieved financial success and confused it with moral superiority. I see someone who thinks wealth equals wisdom. I see a CEO who's never been told no and doesn't know how to handle accountability. Judge Caprio's voice softens slightly but loses none of its authority. You're 52 years old. You've built a successful company. That's genuinely admirable. But success without humility is just arrogance. Money without respect is worthless paper. And power without accountability is tyranny. Crawford makes his final catastrophic mistake. Are you giving me a philosophy lesson? Wrong response. Devastatingly wrong. Judge Caprio's voice turns glacial. No, I'm giving you a reality check. $3,350 in fines, due within 30 days. If you fail to pay, a warrant will be issued for your arrest. He closes the file with finality. And Mr. Crawford, when police arrive at your $500 million company to arrest its CEO, you can tell them you're God. See if they care. Crawford leaves the courtroom shaking with rage and humiliation. As he exits, an older gentleman in an expensive suit approaches him in the hallway. Mr. Crawford, I'm David Chen, member of Crawford Dynamics Board of Directors. Crawford's face turns ashen. A board member witnessed everything. I sat here and watched you disrespect a judge, arrive late without apology, and call yourself God. The board will be discussing this. Crawford stammers desperately. It's not what it looked like. You proved everything the board feared. David walks away, leaving Crawford alone with the weight of consequences finally settling on his shoulders. Back in the courtroom, Judge Caprio addresses the remaining gallery. Ladies and gentlemen, what you witnessed today demonstrates what happens when someone confuses financial success with personal superiority. An elderly man stands. Your Honor, I'm a retired judge from Connecticut. I drove down specifically to observe your courtroom. What you accomplished today was a masterclass in judicial authority. That man needed to learn he's not above the law. Judge Caprio nods thoughtfully. Success is wonderful. Building companies, creating jobs, achieving wealth. Those are admirable accomplishments. But they don't exempt anyone from basic human decency or respect for law. Days later, the video goes viral. CEO calls himself God in court, gets destroyed by judge. This is what happens when nobody tells you no for 20 years. Judge Caprio just delivered a biblical lesson in humility. A week later, the board orders leadership training, starting with Crawford. Crawford issues a public statement. I apologize for my behavior in court. I allowed arrogance to cloud my judgment. I'm committed to becoming a better leader and a better person. He pays the $350 fine immediately. Months later, Crawford's changed, still successful but humble. He listens more, expresses gratitude, arrives punctually, and treats everyone with respect. When someone asks what changed, Crawford responds, "I met a judge who reminded me I'm not God. Best lesson I ever learned." Jonathan Crawford learned that calling yourself God costs exactly $350 and whatever remains of your dignity. Judge Caprio proved that courtrooms are the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're worth $500 million or $500. Law applies equally. Respect is mandatory. And declaring yourself divine just proves you need the most humility. When a CEO forgets he's human, when wealth becomes a shield instead of a responsibility, when someone needs reminding that there's only one authority in a courtroom and it's not them, this is what justice looks like. If you enjoyed this story, you can support me by liking it, and if you haven't already, subscribing to my channel, my loyal viewers. If you enjoy stories like this, you can check out the other videos on my channel. See you in the next video. Stay healthy.